She walked with the storm, not behind it, not beneath it, but with it, as if her footsteps matched the rhythm of thunder. And the sky wept not because of the clouds, but because of her. No name, no home, just a swollen belly, a soaked coat, and a secret too heavy for her spine. That night, the city didn't just rain, it grieved. The streets of East Fairwood were no place for a woman like her. Not tonight. The alleys hummed with electricity, water gushing from overflowing gutters. Street lamps flickered like nervous eyelids. The distant sound of sirens curled through the night like smoke. She wrapped her tattered coat tighter around her belly, her breath hitching as she stepped into ankle-deep water. Each step was a fight against cold, memory, and fear. Her braided hair clung to her skin like vines to stone. Mud kissed the hem of her skirt. Somewhere behind her, there was a voice. A man's voice. Cruel, familiar, slurred from the bottle and sharpened by years of dominance. She didn't look back. She couldn't. Her hands trembled. Not from fear, but from the energy of something far older than fear. Resolve. She passed the laundromat where she once worked. Broken window. Out of business. Past the diner with the red booths and the jukebox she used to sing to. Silent now. The city had forgotten her. But not him. He would find her again. Unless she vanished first. She turned the corner into a narrow lane flanked by rusting fences and graffiti walls. A dead end. But at the far end, a narrow wooden shed, barely standing. Its door creaked open in the wind. It was enough. She stepped inside. The smell of rot and wet wood filled her lungs, but she was used to such company. She slid down the wall, her legs finally allowed to shake. Raindrops drummed against the tin roof like war drums. And then she saw him. Eyes first, golden, alert, watching her from the shadowed corner like a silent guardian. A German shepherd. She froze. Her hand instinctively went to her belly. The dog did not move, nor growl, nor lunge, just watched, as if he knew her, as if he'd been waiting for her. His fur was matted, his ribs visible beneath damp skin. A torn collar still clung to his neck. Her name was Mira, but she hadn't heard it spoken kindly in months. She whispered it to herself that night, as if to prove she still existed. She told the baby within her, "You'll know my name, and yours." She didn't cry, not yet. There would be time for tears later. The dog slept near the door, facing out, as if guarding her. She didn't know why he stayed. Maybe the bread, maybe the warmth. Maybe he knew what it felt like to run. They didn't sleep much that night. Too cold, too alert. But they weren't alone anymore, and that made all the difference. By morning, the rain had slowed to a drizzle. The city groaned awake behind her, unaware it had nearly lost a mother and a protector in the same night. Mira stretched slowly, one hand on her belly. The baby had kicked once in the night, a small, determined flutter. "You're strong," she said aloud, "like your mama, like him." She looked at the dog. He sat up, ears alert, still watching, always watching. She offered her hand. "What should I call you? Night? Shadow?" The dog blinked. She smiled. "How about King?" The dog wagged his tail, just once. King it was. They left the shed together, Mira with a stolen umbrella someone had discarded in a dumpster, King at her side, every step. They moved like two souls bound by invisible thread. Food was the mission now, and maybe something dry to wear. She passed an old bus stop bench where someone had left a duffel bag, torn zipper, but inside, a hoodie, too big for her, and half a granola bar. "Bless whoever you were," she murmured. They walked along the edge of the city. Mira kept her head down. King walked between her and the road, like a sentry. A pair of teenagers tried to throw a bottle at her. King barked once, loud, sharp. They ran. Mira chuckled. "Good boy." As night approached again, Mira spotted an old greenhouse behind a chain-link fence. Its glass mostly broken, but the structure still standing. King barked once and ran ahead. He squeezed through a gap. She followed. Inside. Quiet. Damp. Overgrown with ivy, but peaceful. They slept beneath the stars, peeking through shattered panels. Mira held her belly and whispered stories to her baby, about a woman who refused to be broken, about a dog who once guarded a queen. She didn't know if she believed them herself, but days passed. Mira and King created a rhythm. In the early hours, they foraged near the edge of the city. Empty vending machines, forgotten gardens, kindness in unexpected places. A man at a loading dock once tossed Mira a banana and a bottle of water. Said nothing, just nodded. King was cautious of everyone, but never aggressive. Mira noticed how he always stood between her and anything unfamiliar. Once, a man in a long coat tried to ask Mira too many questions. King didn't bark. He just stared. Low, steady growl rumbling. The man backed away. They moved by instinct, like shadows through a city that only saw what it wanted to. On the third night in the greenhouse, Mira woke in a panic. Her belly had cramped, sharp, sudden. She gasped and sat up. King was already beside her, his eyes reflecting moonlight, alert and silent. It passed. But she wept quietly. "I can't do this," she whispered, fingers trembling as they pressed against her abdomen. King nudged her hand with his nose, gentle, reassuring. "I'm scared," she said. He lay down beside her, head on her feet, and for the first time since she ran, Mira allowed herself to cry. She cried for the bruises she never showed, the mother she lost young, the man who shattered her kindness, and the future she wasn't sure she deserved. But she didn't cry alone. In the days that followed, Mira began to talk more, to King, to herself, to the unborn child who kicked stronger now. She told stories of her childhood, of a small apartment above a bakery that always smelled like cinnamon, of a teacher who once called her a star, of a dream she had of becoming a writer. "You'd laugh if you saw my journals," she said to King. "I wrote poems about clouds. Thought I'd publish a book by 20. Instead," she stopped. King tilted his head. "Instead, I'm hiding in glass houses with you. And somehow, that feels better than anything else ever did." That night, it rained again. Not heavy, gentle, and Mira dreamed. She saw herself, older, sitting on a porch with a toddler on her lap, King at their feet, peace in her heart. She woke with a soft smile, wiped a tear, and whispered, "Someday." King lifted his head, as if he'd heard it too. The greenhouse, though broken, had become a home, a fragile one, a mother becoming, a woman healing. And King, the silent guardian, never left her side. Sometimes healing doesn't arrive with trumpets. It comes quietly, like the nose of a dog resting on your hand in the middle of your worst night. Like the heartbeat of a baby reminding you that time is still moving forward. Like a whisper inside your chest saying, "You're still here, keep going." The morning after the rain tasted different. It wasn't sweet, it wasn't fresh. It was heavy, like the breath of someone holding back tears. Mira stirred awake, curled beneath the oversized hoodie, her belly stretching the fabric tight. The greenhouse was cold, dew clinging to leaves and glass fragments like nervous sweat. A pigeon fluttered overhead, knocking loose a shard of glass that shattered not far from her head. King was already standing. His ears were up, body rigid. Mira sat up quickly, breath catching. "What is it?" King growled low, eyes fixed on the shattered entrance. Then she heard it. Boots, soft at first, careful, crunching over gravel and broken glass. She grabbed her small bag and stood. Her legs wobbled. Her heart thundered. Her back pressed against the greenhouse wall. King moved in front of her. Through the fogged glass and wild vines, a shadow appeared. Tall, lean, wearing a dark coat. The man paused outside the frame, as if deciding whether to enter. Mira's breath caught in her throat. No, but it wasn't him. This man's voice was different when he spoke, softer. "Hello, anyone in there?" King barked. A single sharp warning. The man raised both hands. "I'm not here to hurt anyone, I swear. I saw the dog, just wanted to make sure no one's freezing to death in there." Mira said nothing. Her silence was learned. King didn't relax. The man hesitated, then placed a thermos on the ground, along with a plastic bag. "Just coffee and bread if you're hungry. I'll leave it." He turned and walked away. Mira waited. 10 minutes, 20. She finally stepped forward. King sniffed the bag, then looked at her. Still warm, still safe. She took the items and sat. The coffee made her chest burn and her eyes sting. It was the first hot thing she'd tasted in weeks. Later that day, Mira moved through the city outskirts with more awareness. She stayed in alleys, trusted shadows more than light, but something had shifted. The stranger hadn't tried to hurt her, and that scared her more than if he had. Trust wasn't a switch. It was a wound, and Mira's had barely scabbed over. That night in the greenhouse, Mira sat with King and spoke aloud. "You stayed with..."
Her touch was gentle, careful, like brushing snow from a flower. She felt the scar near his left ear. He flinched just slightly. She didn't ask more. They sat together in the quiet. The first real contact. The beginning of something neither of them had words for. A family. The next morning, Mira woke up to the sound of voices. Not one, two. Outside the greenhouse. She stayed low. King stood again, ears pinned back. "I'm telling you, "This place is falling apart," said a gruff male voice. "Still," said a second voice, young, female. "You think someone's staying in here? Maybe. Or maybe it's just the damn dog I saw again." Footsteps neared the opening. Myra's heart pounded. King stood firm. Then a flashlight beam swept the inside. "Hello. Anyone here?" Myra stepped out slowly, her hands raised. The young woman gasped. "Oh my God, are you okay?" Myra nodded, though her face said otherwise. "I'm Fine. Just passing through." "You're pregnant," the woman said. The man with her stepped closer. "We won't hurt you. We work at the food pantry 3 blocks down. Someone mentioned a dog in this area, and, well..." King growled softly. "Easy boy," Myra whispered. The woman, who introduced herself as Leah, offered a paper bag. "Just food, if you want." Inside, fruit, water bottles, and a pair of dry socks. Myra blinked rapidly. "Thank you." Leah smiled. "We come back every few days. If you need anything, or if you want to come with us." Myra said nothing, but she nodded, and that night, she wept again. Not from fear, but from the strange, aching weight of kindness. Over the next week, Leah returned. Always alone, always respectful. She never pried, just listened. Sometimes she brought soup. Once, she brought an old sweater and a pair of sneakers that almost fit. Myra started talking. Just little things. "I was a writer. Once. He didn't like when I was louder than him. My mother died in childbirth. I am scared." Leah never interrupted. She always pet King before she left. And King allowed it. Myra started writing again. Her charcoal journal grew longer. Day 8. Sometimes strangers feel safer than friends. Day 10. Trust is a bridge built brick by brick, not a leap. Day 12. The baby kicked after Leah left. Like it knew her kindness, too. One morning, Myra woke to King pacing. Then she heard it. A familiar sound. A whistle. Not a bird. Not Leah. Him. The sound he used to call the dog they once owned together. The sound that meant, "Come home. Or else." Myra froze. King growled, low and ready. Footsteps passed near the greenhouse. Then faded. She sat down slowly. King rested his head on her knee. "He's looking for me," she whispered. King didn't move. She stroked his fur, her breath shaky. "I'm not going back." King let out a quiet huff. Like agreement. Like a vow. The next day, Myra told Leah everything. Not every bruise. Not every scream. But enough. Leah didn't gasp. She nodded, then handed Myra a piece of paper. A safe house address. If it gets worse. If you need to vanish again. Myra tucked it in her journal. Just in case. But part of her wanted to stay. To fight. To stop running. Not just for her, but for the baby. For King. For the version of herself who still dared to believe she could be more than what he tried to break. That night, Myra told King a new story. A bedtime tale. Of a warrior woman and her lion-hearted wolf. Of how they wandered until they found each other. And how that was the beginning of a new kingdom. Not of gold, but of grace. Of second chances. Of soft things born from hard places. King listened until her voice faded. And together they dreamed. Where Myra and King seek sanctuary outside the city, face nature's trials, and begin building a fragile sense of freedom. Far from noise, but not from danger. Asterisk. Sometimes the silence of trees is louder than the noise of cities. Out here, there were no car horns, no shouting strangers, no eyes judging her swollen belly. Just the creak of old branches, the breath of wind through pine, and the steady footsteps of a dog who never left her side. They were out of the city, but not out of danger. Myra held the straps of her worn duffel tighter as she stepped over a fallen log. The trail behind them had vanished hours ago. All that remained were deer tracks, soft moss, and the faint knowledge that she had made a choice most would call reckless. She was 8 months pregnant, alone, but for King, and the child kicking beneath her ribs. She paused to catch her breath, resting one hand against the rough bark of a tree. The air smelled different here, earthy, deep alive. King circled once, ears alert, then came back to her side. "You sure about this?" she whispered. King looked at her. That was answer enough. They kept moving. 2 days ago, After the second sighting of him in the city, Mira made the call. She hadn't used a phone in months, but Leah had insisted. Go north, Leah had said. There's an old ranger station near Pine Ridge. No one uses it anymore. You'll be safe, at least for a while. Mira didn't ask questions. She packed what little she had. She left a note in the greenhouse. Thank you for believing I could start again. And then she and King boarded a bus. A long ride, 2 transfers, and hours of walking since. Now, with dusk creeping in and the shadows lengthening, Mira spotted what looked like an old wooden fence ahead. Her heart fluttered. They reached it just as the last light vanished from the sky. Behind the fence, a small, sagging cabin, shutters barely hanging on, a porch overtaken by vines. But the roof was intact. Mira smiled for the first time in hours. Home, she said. King barked once, softly, as if agreeing. Inside, the ranger station smelled like dust and old stories. A broken desk, a rusted stove, and a torn sleeping bag were all that remained of someone's past life. But it was dry and safe. Mira laid her things down carefully, then collapsed onto the sleeping bag. King lay beside her, head resting on her hip. For a while, they said nothing, because sometimes survival sounds like silence, and hope, like a baby's steady heartbeat against your ribs. The next morning, Mira woke to birdsong. She hadn't heard real birds in so long. She thought it was a dream. But when she opened her eyes, sunlight streamed through the cracked window. Dust floated in golden beams. King was already outside, sniffing the perimeter. She stretched slowly. Her back ached. Her ankles were swollen. But for the first time, she felt like she could breathe. She found a shallow stream nearby and used a broken tin can to wash her face. The water was icy, but clean. She filled a jug Leah had given her, then knelt down and watched King wade through the shallows. He snapped at the water playfully. She laughed. We really made it, huh? He barked once and shook his fur, spraying her with droplets. She shrieked, then laughed again. The sound echoed through the trees like music. They spent the day exploring. Mira took stock of what they had: 3 cans of beans, 2 protein bars, a small camping pot, and a baby blanket folded tightly at the bottom of her bag. She found an old metal chair on the porch and placed it in the sun. There, she sat with her journal. Day 16, the woods feel like memory. And maybe that's what I need to forget what the world told me I was. She looked up as a squirrel darted across a tree limb. King chases butterflies like a puppy. I think he's younger than he acts. Or maybe he just needed a reason to play again. That night, as the stars emerged, Mira lay with her coat tucked around her belly. She spoke softly. To my baby, if you're listening from inside, know this. We might not have much, but you were born of choice, of strength, of stories still unfolding. King pressed his body close to her side, and the forest sang them to sleep. Even paradise has shadows, and sometimes, the deeper you go into peace, the more you fear the sound of a breaking twig. Mira had found shelter, but safety? That was harder to trust, especially when the wind carried memories and the forest never promised silence for long. The days that followed settled into a rhythm. Mira woke with the light, fetched water from the stream, and cooked whatever she could from what little she had. She rationed carefully, boiling water for tea, soaking beans overnight, even roasting pine nuts she found beneath a tree. King learned the perimeter. He chased off raccoons, barked at owls, and once even growled at a shadow that Mira swore looked human, though no one appeared. But they were warm. They were hidden. And for now, that was enough. One morning, Mira found an old trapdoor under the cabin floorboards. It creaked open to reveal a tiny cellar filled with damp papers, old ranger maps, and a rusted lantern. Most of it had been eaten by mice or time, but tucked in the corner was something wrapped in oilskin. A map. She unrolled it carefully, brushing away dust. The markings were old, hand-drawn in pencil and faded ink. Trails, ranger symbols, landmarks. Her eyes caught on a small red X scrawled near the edge of a ridge labeled Witch's Eye Rock. She didn't know why, but something about it stirred her. That night, she studied the map under candlelight while King lay nearby, watching her. You think it's worth checking? She asked. King let out a soft snort. Fair enough, she said. Tomorrow, then. The trail to Witch's Eye Rock wasn't easy. It wound uphill through thick brush, past thickets of blackberry and gnarled trees. Mira had to stop often. Her feet ached, her back throbbed, and her center of gravity felt like a cruel joke. But King stayed close, nosing her leg whenever she slowed, as if saying, I've got you. Keep going. After nearly 2 hours, they reached it. Witch's Eye Rock wasn't a rock exactly. It was a strange outcropping that looked like a skull, with a round hollow in the middle where moss had grown over time. Behind it, a cave. Small, almost hidden. Inside, old camping supplies. A broken radio, a wool blanket, and a locked metal box. Myra's heart raced. She broke the lock with a rock after several tries. Inside the box, a first aid kit, half full, a small hunting knife, a silver compass, a folded note. For the next lost soul, you're not alone. You never were. Mira didn't cry, but her hands trembled as she held the note. King sniffed it, then sat beside her. They stayed in that cave for a while, just breathing, not in fear, in something like wonder. On the way back, Mira slipped. The trail was slick. Her foot caught a root. Her body tumbled. An instinct made her twist mid-air to protect her belly. She landed hard on her side. A scream tore from her throat. King barked wildly. Pain shot through her ribs and hip. She gasped, couldn't move. Then, the baby kicked. Once, then twice. Relief rushed through her so fast she sobbed. I'm okay, she whispered. I'm okay. King nuzzled her hand. She lay there for almost 10 minutes before forcing herself up. Bruised, limping, but alive. Back at the cabin, she cleaned her cuts and sat in the doorway, letting the sun dry her tears. That night, she wrapped the compass and note in her journal. I'm not alone, she whispered to herself. It wasn't just a mantra now. It was truth. And truth, Mira had learned, was a kind of shelter too. The forest has rules. Some are written in moss and sunlight. Others are written in blood. That night, Mira would learn both. Because some peace is just the calm before a test. And some loyalty is measured in how far a dog will run through darkness to protect what it loves. The days had grown colder. Nights now arrived faster, pressing against the cabin walls like silent warnings. Mira had started lighting a fire in the old, rusted stove, feeding it with dead branches and old ranger manuals she no longer needed. Her belly was heavy now. Breathing took effort, but the baby still kicked strong every night just before sleep, as if reminding her, we're not done yet. King stayed close, always near the door, always alert. It happened on the 9th night. The fire had burned low. Mira was dozing on the cot, wrapped in a wool blanket she'd found in the cave stash. King was curled by the window. Then, snap, a sound outside, too clean for a branch, too sharp for an animal. King's ears perked. Mira sat up, instincts roaring awake. Another sound, footsteps, slow, measured, moving through dry leaves just beyond the clearing. King growled. Myra's pulse pounded in her throat. She grabbed the hunting knife from under her pillow. Then a voice, slurred, familiar. Maria, you think trees can hide you forever? Her breath caught. No, it couldn't be. But it was him. He had followed her. Somehow, someway. She stood, legs trembling. King barked now, deep and loud, full of fury. The voice outside laughed. You got a mutt guarding you now? Won't matter. You always come back. You always break. Mira whispered, not this time. King charged through the broken cabin door like a missile. She heard the scuffle, snarling, shouting, a thud. Then silence. Too much silence. She rushed to the doorframe, knife clutched tight. The clearing was empty. No king. No man. Just drag marks in the mud. And drops of blood. She ran. Through trees. Over roots. Pain shot through her hips, but she didn't stop. She called his name. King. King. No answer. Then, a whimper. Faint. From the ridge. She climbed, breathless, nearly crawling. And found him. King stood over the man, bloodied, unconscious, his arm twisted at a wrong angle. King's side was torn. A deep gash. Bleeding. Mira screamed. She dropped beside him, hands shaking. Don't you dare. Don't you dare leave me. King licked her fingers. Weak, but present, alive. She tore strips from her shirt, pressed them to his side, tied tight. Then, unbelievably, she began to laugh. Hysterically, because King wagged his tail. Even like this, even bleeding, he wagged. It took her hours to drag him back to the cabin. She left the man. She didn't care. Let the forest have him. She used the first aid kit from the metal box, cleaned the wound, sewed it shut with trembling hands and a rusted needle. She sat up all night, whispering stories to him, of queens and kings, of brave beasts who never backed down, of loyalty that burned hotter than hate. By morning, King slept, breathing steady. She passed out beside him. The man never returned. Maybe he crawled away. Maybe not. The forest never told. And Mira never asked. Weeks passed. Mira rebuilt the door with scrap wood, hung a bell from branch, trained King to bark at the sound. The baby was due any day. One night, under the stars, she whispered to King, "I don't know what comes next, but I know who I want beside me." He placed his head in her lap, and for the first time since running, Mira didn't feel hunted. She fell home, the birth and the storm, where pain meets miracle, and Mira faces the greatest night of her life, alone, except for the one soul who never left her side. Some storms tear apart the sky. Others remake the soul. Mira had known hunger, fear, escape, but she hadn't known this. The raw edge of nature. The aching tension of her own body preparing for something ancient and divine. And she hadn't known that the night her child came into the world, the heavens would split open to bear witness. The air felt different. It was subtle at first, a pressure building in the clouds. The hush of birds vanishing earlier than usual. The scent of ozone drifting through the forest like a forgotten memory. Mira stood on the porch of the cabin, her hands on the curve of her belly. King lay beside her, still healing but alert. His ears flicked toward the horizon. "I feel it too," she whispered. She wasn't just speaking about the storm. She had spent the last 2 weeks preparing. The cabin was cleaner now, organized, nest-like. She had lined the floor with layers of scavenged blankets, boiled water in pots, kept clean towels ready. Her journal had shifted from stories to letters. "To my child," she'd written, "you are coming into a world that tried to break your mother. But I built a corner of it with love, with grit, with the loyalty of a dog and the strength of choice." Each night, she spoke to the baby aloud, told them about the stars, about King, about a woman who never thought she'd be brave again. And every night, the baby kicked back, answering in silence. That morning, the first contraction hit. Not sharp, not screaming, but low, deep, like something ancient unfurling in her spine. She gripped the windowsill and closed her eyes. King stood, watched her. She nodded. "It's starting." He let out a low sound, almost like a whine. She reached for him. "You're still healing, but I need you here." He pressed his head to her belly, and they stood that way for a long time. The storm broke just after sunset. Thunder cracked like gunfire. Wind tore through the clearing, slamming branches against the roof. Rain came down in sheets. Inside, Mira lit every candle she had. Shadows danced across the walls. She moved slowly, breathed carefully. The pain came in waves now. Stronger, closer. She leaned against the table, moaned low through each one. King paced the room. He barked once, toward the door. She shook her head. "Don't leave. Please." He stopped. "Saturday." Waited. She laughed through a tear. "You're more midwife than dog. You know that?" Another contraction hit. She fell to her knees, cried out. This one hurt. This one changed something. Her water broke. She gasped. "It's time." She dragged herself to the nest she had made on the cabin floor. Hands shaking, breath ragged. Thunder roared above. Lightning lit the sky. The forest held its breath. King lay beside her, his body pressed close. Steady, warm. And Mira did something she hadn't done in months. She prayed, not with words, not to a god she didn't know how to believe in, but with her breath, with her body, with every ounce of will that had carried her this far. The storm reaches its peak. Mira enters the final stages of labor, and a moment of desperation leads to an unexpected miracle. There are moments when the world stops spinning, not in peace, not in stillness, but in the eye of pain so raw, so sacred, it becomes a place outside of time. Mira had reached that place, and the storm raged to honor it. Lightning flashed across the cabin walls. Mira clenched the blanket beneath her, sweat slicking her forehead. Her body heaved with effort. Pain came in waves now, deep, primal, unrelenting. She screamed, a sound not of fear, but of becoming. King whined softly beside her, his head close, ears pulled back. Rain pounded the roof. Wind rattled the windows like ghosts trying to get in. But inside, it was just her child, and him. She reached for the edge of the cot, using it for balance as she shifted to her knees. Gravity helped. So did fury and love. She remembered every man who ever said she was weak. Every moment she doubted her voice. Every time she bled, broken or bent, and still risen. Not tonight, she whispered through gritted teeth. The next contraction dropped her to all fours. Her scream ripped through the cabin, swallowed instantly by thunder. King barked once, loud, fierce, as if adding his voice to hers. She had read about this, the moment just before crowning. They called it the Ring of Fire. And God, it burned. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Come on, she sobbed. Come on, baby, come on. Then, a shift. The pain peaked and then transformed. Pressure, movement, release. One final push, one primal roar, and then silence. Not from the storm, but from inside her. The space that had been filled for 9 long months was suddenly empty. For a moment, she panicked. Nokurai. She turned, reached, and there, between trembling legs, a child, tiny, slick with birth, curled and quiet. Mira scooped the baby into her arms, heart pounding. Breathe, she begged. Please, breathe. A cough. Then, a wail. Loud, sharp, alive. Mira laughed and sobbed all at once. King barked joyfully, tail thumping against the wooden floor. Lightning lit the cabin again, and Mira stared at her daughter. Yes, she whispered. You're real. You're here. She used the old scissors from the first aid kit to cut the cord, tied it off with a strip of boiled cloth, wrapped the baby in a flannel shirt, held her close. The girl had dark curls, a strong cry, and eyes that blinked up at the storm like they were born to it. I'm naming you Amara, Mira whispered. It means grace. King let out a small, approving whine. Amara's eyes fluttered shut, and Mira finally, leaned back against the wall. Her body wrecked, her soul reborn. The storm began to fade. Not suddenly, not all at once, but like a song slowly losing its last note. By dawn, only raindrops remained, tapping gently on the roof. Mira sat with Amara in her arms, swaying slightly. King slept beside them. The cabin was still, lit only by the soft gray of morning. But in Myra's chest, a new storm had begun, not of fear, but of love, big, loud, and forever. Mira faces the first fragile hours of motherhood. King takes on a new role, and the forest offers an unexpected gift. After every storm comes the hush. Not silence, but stillness. A pause between what was and what will be. The soft breath of the world resetting itself. For Mira, this hush carried the weight of everything. Motherhood, survival, and the wild thump of a newborn heart pressed against her chest. The cabin was quiet. Ashes sat cold in the stove. Rain dripped lazily from the eaves. The world outside was washed clean. Inside, Mira held Amara, her daughter swaddled in a soft, torn flannel shirt. Her fingers were impossibly small, her breathing light and fast. Her head smelled of earth and milk and new beginnings. Mira had not slept, but she wasn't tired. She was transformed. Every nerve burned with awareness. Every second stretched like an hour, each movement sacred. King stirred beside her and sat up. He watched the baby, then Mira, then lowered his head gently onto her lap. You did good, she whispered to him, stroking his ears. We all did. Later that morning, Mira stepped outside for the first time. Amara bundled close to her chest in a scarf wrap. Mira held her hand over the baby's head as the sun peeked through scattered clouds. Steam rose from the earth. Birds returned. A squirrel darted across the clearing, bold and curious. The forest was alive again. Mira walked slowly to the stream. King trailed close, alert and watchful. She knelt and dipped a cloth into the cool water, gently cleaning her daughter's face. Then her own. She stared into the reflection, barely recognizing herself. Her eyes looked older. Her face, sharper, more defined. Her skin sun-kissed and marked by effort. But behind all that, strength. Quiet. Unshakable. She had made life. In the middle of nowhere. With no help but a wounded dog, a firestorm, and her own body. Back at the cabin, Mira added more pages to her journal. Day 27. Amara came last night. In a hurricane of thunder and light. She screamed like the sky itself. And then, she looked at me. Like she already knew me. Like she had waited through lifetimes to find me again. She closed the book, kissed Amara's forehead, and rocked her gently. "You're safe now," she whispered. "You're home." Over the next 2 days, the forest offered its quiet gifts. A patch of wild berries ripening at the edge of the ridge. Rainwater pooling in a natural basin near the cave. And, unexpectedly, another visitor. On the 3rd day after the birth, Mira heard a rustle. She was hanging clothes to dry, Amara in a sling across her chest. King stood, ears forward, but he didn't bark, which meant not danger. Mira turned. An old woman stood at the edge of the clearing. Gray hair and braids, a weather jacket, a hiking stick in one hand and a canvas bag in the other. She raised her hand in peace. "Didn't mean to scare you," she said. "I used to patrol these woods. Heard there was movement up here. Saw smoke. Figured someone finally came back." Mira didn't speak at first. She looked at King. He stood still, tail neutral. Mira nodded. "We came. We stayed. We survived." The woman's eyes softened. "Looks like you did more than that." She stepped forward slowly. "I'm June. Was a ranger here 20 years ago. I left some supplies in a cave, in case someone like you ever needed it." Myra's eyes filled with tears. She held out a trembling hand. "I'm Mira. This is Amara. And that is King." June stayed for tea. Listened. Didn't judge. She brought dried herbs, oatmeal, a jar of honey, and a sling made from deer leather. She examined Myra's stitches, checked Amara's breathing, and said something Mira had not heard in months. "You're a damn miracle, you know that?" Mira smiled. For the first time, it didn't hurt. Before she left, June gave her a radio. "Battery's weak, but enough to call if you ever need. I'll be back in a few weeks. Until then, keep writing your story. Keep living it." And just like that, June melted back into the trees, like she was part of the forest itself. That night, Mira lit a candle beside her bed. Amara slept curled against her chest, King at her feet. The wind outside was soft now. The hush had turned to a lullaby. And Mira, once hunted, once broken, once afraid, now mother, protector, and survivor, whispered to the dark, "We're still here." And the stars above blinked back. "Yes, you are." Footprints and firelight. Where Mira takes her first steps toward rebuilding, King finds his old strength, and the world hints that not every stranger brings harm. Some journeys begin the moment you stop running. For Mira, that moment came in a patch of sunlit earth, where her daughter cooed at the sky, and King rested with both eyes closed for the first time in weeks. They weren't running anymore. Now they were building. The forest changed with them. It had once felt like a cage, thick, watching, full of things that whispered not yet. Now it felt like a womb, still wild, still sacred, but filled with possibility. Mira marked the baby's 2-week milestone with a fire. Not for warmth, not for fear, but for celebration. She and King sat near the pit as the flames licked the dusk. Amara lay wrapped in blankets nearby, making soft gurgles every time the wind rustled the trees. "Think she'll remember this?" Mira whispered. King stretched and groaned. "She'll remember the warmth," Mira decided. "Maybe the way your fur felt. Maybe the way we didn't give up." Mira had changed, too. Her body was healing. Slow but certain. She moved with more confidence now, her steps firmer, her hands no longer trembling. Every day, she walked the perimeter, collecting wood, checking snares, watching the sky. King had grown stronger as well. His wound had nearly closed, a scar now hidden beneath regrown fur. And his spirit, that had never faltered, he stayed close to Amara, always placing himself between the child and any shadow. It was as though he knew his job had changed. Not just a guardian of the woman, now of a legacy. On the 10th day after Amara's birth, Mira found something strange. Footprints. Not June's. Not boots. Barefoot. Wide set. Deep. Leading from the creek up toward the eastern ridge. Mira crouched and touched the indent. Still damp. Fresh. She looked at King. He was already sniffing the air, ears pricked, but not growling, not barking, just waiting. She followed the trail slowly, King ahead, Amara asleep in the sling across Myra's chest. The prince wound past the blackberry bushes along a mossy path and ended at the edge of a clearing Mira had never entered before. There, hanging from a branch, was a pouch made of stitched bark and cord. Inside, a packet of dried apple slices, 2 cloth diapers, a hand-carved wooden rattle, and a note. To the mother in the woods. You are not alone. Mira stared at it for a long time, then looked around. No one. Just trees. Just wind. Just the undeniable feeling that someone was watching over them. That night, as firelight danced across her journal, Mira wrote, Day 38. The world is bigger than I thought. Softer, too. Sometimes it sends storms. Sometimes strangers with rations. But either way, it answers. She traced the outline of Amara's hand in the margins, then looked to King. You think we're part of the forest now? She asked. He huffed, closed his eyes. She smiled. Tomorrow, she'd explore the ridge. Maybe build a lookout. Maybe leave something behind for the next lost soul. Because footprints are meant to be followed, and firelight was meant to be shared. Mira uncovers a trail of hidden shelters. King tests his strength against a threat from the wild, and Amara giggles for the first time. Some fires don't just warm the skin. They awaken memory. They summon echoes of those who walked before. And as Mira watched her child's first smile flicker like flame, she knew she wasn't the first woman to survive the dark. But maybe, just maybe, she could help light a path through it. The next morning, Mira packed carefully. She wrapped Amara in a tighter sling, strapped the hunting knife to her hip, and left King to guard the cabin. He whined as she crossed the clearing. Just an hour, she promised. You'll hear me if I scream. King barked once, low and grumbly. She smiled. I know you don't like it, but someone left us gifts. I need to know who and why. The eastern ridge was steep, its path littered with moss and twisted roots. But Mira climbed it anyway. At the top, she found a small clearing, carved into a tree trunk, an old ranger symbol. Beneath it, a shallow dugout covered with moss and bark. Inside, another stash, a waterproof blanket, a tin of powdered milk, a child's wool hat, too big for Amara now, but not forever. Tucked inside was another note. Leave what you can. Take only what you must. We'll look out for our own. Mira sat on the moss, stunned. It wasn't magic. It was kindness. Old kindness, rooted here like the trees. She left a bundle of fire-starting sticks and a thank-you note. Back at the cabin, King greeted her with a full body wag. He sniffed the wool hat, then looked at Mira as if to say, So, did you meet the fairies? Better, she said. People who remember. That night, Amara giggled. It happened while Mira was drying clothes near the fire. The baby let out a sudden, bubbling sound, joyful and round, like a little bell in the woods. Mira froze, turned. Did you? Another giggle, then a third. Mira ran to her, scooped her up. Amara looked her straight in the eye and smiled. Not gas, not accident, a real smile. The first. Mira cried, not because she was sad, but because she hadn't remembered joy could sneak up like this. Like sunlight, like firelight. Later, while Mira fed Amara, King growled. Not loud, just enough. She looked toward the tree line. 2 yellow eyes blinked back. A cougar. Thin. Lurking. Mira stood slowly. She put Amara in the sling. Grabbed the knife. King stepped forward. Not barking. Not challenging. Just standing. Between them and the threat. The cougar hissed. Took a step. King didn't flinch. Mira raised her arms, shouted. Get out. The cat paused. Then turned. Vanished. King didn't move for a full 5 minutes. When he did, Mira knelt beside him. "You saved us." Again, he licked her hand once, then collapsed on the blanket beside the fire. Guard duty complete, Mira wrote in her journal. Day 41, the wild still watches. But we watch back now, with teeth and love and firelight. My daughter smiles. My dog protects. And I build. A mysterious visitor enters the clearing. Mira uncovers the truth behind the woodland aid, and King faces a moment of reckoning that will test his bond with the family he's chosen. Not all visitors knock. Some arrive on soft feet, with stories behind their eyes and answers hidden in silence. Mira didn't expect a man to step into her firelight that night. But he did, and nothing was the same after. It started with a rustle. King lifted his head, didn't growl, didn't move, just stared. Mira looked toward the trees. There he was, a tall man, lean, wrapped in a brown cloak, gray in his beard, boots muddy. He stood just outside the ring of light, palms open, no weapon. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "Didn't mean to startle you." Mira didn't move. Amara was asleep. The knife was at her side. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said. "Name's Elias. I've been watching from a distance, making sure you were safe." Mira narrowed her eyes. "Why?" He gestured toward the trees. "Because June told me about you. And because once a long time ago, someone helped me." Elias sat near the fire. He didn't ask questions, didn't pry. He simply shared. "I used to live in these woods, off-grid. After my wife died, I didn't want the world anymore. Then one day, a girl came running through the trees, bleeding, barefoot, and carrying a dog. She'd escaped something terrible. I helped her. She left a note before she vanished. We don't survive alone." Mira listened, silent. "I built the caches," he continued. "The ones you found. Me and June. For people like her. For people like you." Mira looked at King, then Amara, then back Elias. "You think there'll be more?" she asked. Elias nodded. "Always are." He stayed one night, shared dried meat, repaired a leak in the cabin roof, sharpened Myra's knife, then left at dawn. "I'll check back in a month," he said, "unless you need me sooner." He handed her a carved whistle. "One blow. I'll hear it." Mira took it, didn't cry, but something inside her eased. Not trust, not yet, but something close. 3 days later, King didn't return from his walk. He always circled the perimeter twice, always came back before dusk. This time, nothing. Mira waited an hour, then 2, then strapped Amara to her chest, grabbed her walking stick, and followed his trail. She found him near the ridge, trapped, one leg caught in a snare, old wire, rusted. His eyes were wild with pain, but he didn't bark. She ran to him, heart in her throat. "It's okay. I've got you. I've got you." She freed his leg, whispered soothing words, used the sling to carry him home. He didn't resist, didn't cry, just looked at her with those golden eyes full of something deeper than loyalty. Mira made a poultice from June's herbs, wrapped his leg, fed it by hand. For 3 days, he didn't stand. But on the 4th, he limped to Amara's side and lay down beside her. The baby reached out, grabbed his ear, and giggled. King licked her hand, and Mira wept, because even broken things can protect. Even the wounded can be strong. Even a dog with a scarred leg can be a guardian. Especially him. That night, as firelight flickered, Mira wrote, Day 46, the world is not soft, but is not empty either. It holds space for men like Elias, for warriors like King, for girls like me who became mothers, and for babies who bring laughter to the forest. She paused, then added, and if the world holds space for all that, then maybe, just maybe, it holds space for tomorrow too. The Stranger's Shadow, where Mira confronts her past in the form of a man she hoped never to see again. King must choose between fight and flight, and Amara's presence proves to be more powerful than anyone imagined. Some ghosts wear skin and smile like they belong. But Mira knew better. She knew the air changed before a storm. She felt it in the trees, in King's growl, in the way Amara whimpered that morning for no reason at all. Trouble had found them, and this time it had a name. It began with footprints, not careful ones, not the gentle, wide-set prints of Elias or the worn-soled boots of June. These were heavier, booted, deep, angled with impatience and alcohol. They appeared near the stream, then circled the cabin, then vanished. Mira saw them at dawn. She didn't scream. She didn't shake. But she did pull the knife from under the bed. She did double knot Amara's sling to her body. She did whisper to King, "If he comes, we don't run." Not this time. 2 nights passed. Then came a knock. It was past dusk, the fire low. King stood instantly, his body stiff. Amara stirred in her sleep. And the knock came again. Harder. "Open up, Mira. I know you're in there." The voice. Unmistakable. Slurred. Sharp. Like rusted metal dragged through oil. Tobias. She hadn't spoken his name in months. Not since the last time he'd hit her. Not since she'd run, barefoot, bleeding, holding her unborn child in a prayer. And yet, he had found her. She moved slowly, placing Amara in the hollow under the cot, wrapped in thick blankets. King didn't bark. He didn't need to. His eyes burned. Mira opened the door. Not wide. Just enough. Tobias stood with a bottle in one hand, a hunting rifle slung over his back. His face had aged, eyes sunken, mouth twisted with contempt and something worse, desperation. "Well," he sneered, "aren't you just a forest princess now?" Mira didn't speak. "What? No warm welcome? No hug for the man who made that brat you're hiding?" Still nothing. Tobias stepped forward. Mira held her ground. King growled low. Tobias laughed. "That won't stop me." Mira stepped out, closed the door behind her. "If you take one more step," she said, voice even, "I will end you." Tobias's face contorted. "You think you're strong now? Just 'cause you popped out a kid in the woods? You think you matter?" "No," she said, "but she does. And I'll die before I let her know a man like you." He lunged. Fast. Sloppy. King launched before Mira could even raise the knife. The two collided in a blur of fur and fists. Tobias screamed. The bottle shattered. King bit down hard on his arm. Blood sprayed. Mira grabbed the rifle from his back and threw it into the woods. Tobias kicked, connected with King's ribs. King yelped. Mira roared. She stabbed down. Once. Twice. Into the ground beside Tobias's head. Not to kill. To show. "I could," she whispered. "But I won't. Because I won't let you define what kind of woman I become." Sirens far off. Elias. He must have heard. Tobias lay groaning, bloodied. Mira backed away, pulled King to her side. Held him. Whispered. Checked his wound. "He'll live," she muttered. Shame. When June and 2 deputies arrived, they found Mira by the fire. Calm. Silent. Holding Amara. King asleep at her feet. The arrest was quiet. Tobias didn't say a word. The look in Myra's eyes had done what no cell ever could. June knelt beside her. "You okay?" "No," Mira said honestly. "But I'm safe." That night, Elias sat beside her again. No stories. Just presence. Mira told him everything. About the bruises. The threats. The breaking. About how she thought she'd never find peace. And how, somehow, in a forest full of wild things, she'd found family. Elias listened, then said something simple. "You built something no one could take. Not even him." In the weeks that followed, Mira healed. King healed. The scar on his ribs was tender, but he walked without a limp. Amara began to babble. June brought more supplies. Elias taught Mira how to trap and tan hide. They built a second shelter. Stronger. Wider. A home. Not a hiding place. Mira stood one morning at the edge of the clearing. Amara clutched her leg. King sat beside her, nose in the wind. A hawk circled above, and the breeze whispered the same word again and again. Forward. Not without scars. Not without fear. But forward. She knelt, scooped her daughter up. "Let's show the world who we are," she whispered, and stepped into the sun, embers and echoes. Where Myra's story reaches others in hiding, King faces a deadly trial in the woods, and Amara takes her first steps toward a world her mother built with blood, fire, and love. Fire doesn't forget where it's been. It leaves behind warmth or ash, and sometimes both. In the deep woods beyond Fairwood, Myra's fire had been burning quietly, but embers spark embers. and her light was beginning to spread. It started with the letters. 3 of them, all handwritten, all sealed in cloth, all delivered by Elias one fog-thick morning. He handed them to Mira without a word. She unfolded the first. I heard what you did. I saw him taken away. I still live with mine. But your story gave me courage. The second, I have 2 daughters. We're hiding. We can't keep running. How did you stay? The third, if there's a place for people like us, tell me where to go. Mira read each one twice, then a third time, then lit a candle and sat by the door. Amara played in the dirt beside her. King slept, one eye half open. Mira whispered, they're coming, and she wasn't afraid. The next week, 2 women arrived. One with a toddler, eyes hollow but hands steady. The other carrying nothing but a scar and a folded map. Mira fed them. Let them sleep. No questions, just warmth. By spring's turn, the cabin wasn't just hers. It was theirs. They built 3 shelters. A kitchen under the trees. A watchpost on the hill. King taught the children where not to walk, when to be still, how to listen to the wind. And Amara, she learned to laugh with strangers. She took her first steps, holding the hands of women who once thought they were broken. But embers don't die. They wait. And when gathered together, they burn. One night, Mira stood with Elias under the stars. You started a village, he said. I started a fire, she replied. They built the rest. Elias pointed to the ridge. There'll be more. I know. He hesitated. Do you ever think about leaving? Mira looked at Amara, asleep in her arms. At King curled beside their door. At the soft hum of women telling stories by lantern glow. Already left, she said. And I found this. There was music now. Homemade drums. Whispered lullabies. Songs of return. And every note carried a memory. Of pain. Of peace. Of both. And Myra's voice, once silenced, now led the song. He whispering trail. Where Mira and King venture beyond the forest to find a missing woman. A betrayal tests their growing sanctuary, and Amara's first word sends a ripple of strength through the entire village. Some trails call you by name, not with words, but with a feeling, a wind that changes direction, a scent on the air that doesn't belong. That's how it began, with a whisper only kings seemed to understand. And Mira? She trusted him. The forest had grown louder in the spring. Birds returned in waves. Insects hummed. Branches stretched skyward. But this sound, this new silence, it had weight. Elias noticed it first. On a morning patrol, he found a scrap of cloth tangled in brambles. Blood-streaked, torn, too fresh to be old, too cold to be ignored. He handed it to Mira. I think she's lost, he said. Mira turned it over in her hands, then looked at King. He sniffed it once, growled, then bolted east. They followed. The trail took them through parts of the woods Mira had never dared cross. Deeper valleys, denser brush, signs of struggle, broken branches, smudged prints as snapped bootlace. The woman was moving fast, or being chased. Mira quickened her pace. Amara stayed behind with June. The child's safety was non-negotiable. But King? He moved like lightning. Every turn was a scent. Every shadow, a warning. By dusk, they reached a creek. There, under a fallen log, lay a backpack. Inside, a notebook, canned beans, and a picture of a girl, maybe 12. On the back, I'll come back for you. I swear it. Mira closed her eyes. She knew this kind of promise. The kind you make when you're scared. They made camp. Elias kept watch. Mira boiled water, rereading the note. Why do they always run alone? She whispered. King rested his head on her lap. They don't know yet, she said, that we're here. At dawn, they found her. She was crouched under an overhang, clutching a branch like a spear. Hair tangled, eyes swollen, breath ragged. She hissed as they approached. Stay back. We're not here to hurt you, Mira said. You'll bring him. Who? She just shook her head. King stepped forward. Didn't bark. Didn't move. Just watched. And the girl, no older than 19, lowered the stick. You have a dog, she whispered. Mira nodded. His name is King. The girl slumped. I want to go home, but I don't have one. You do now, Mira said. The walk back took 2 days. They traveled slow. The girl, whose name was Raylene, flinched at every noise. But Mira never left her side. At camp, Raylene asked, "Is it really safe there?" Mira looked at King. "At the stars. Nothing is safe forever," she said. "But we've made something close." They returned to cheers. Raylene was fed, given blankets, given silence. The next morning, she wept as she watched Amara toddle between cabins. "She's not afraid," she said. "She's never had to be," Mira replied. Raylene nodded. "Then I'll stay, and help make sure she never has to be." That night, as fire cracked and stories passed from voice to voice, Amara spoke. One word, clear, firm, Mama. Mira turned, breath caught. "Yes, baby, Mama." And every ember around the fire burned brighter. Because words carry power. And this one echoed through the trees like a promise. Shelter of wings. Where tragedy strikes the growing village, King makes a dangerous choice alone, and Mira must confront a test that threatens everything they've built. Every village has a test. Not the test of fire or flood, but of faith. Faith in each other. Faith that the walls will hold. That the ones we love will return. That the scars we carry won't split open when the world knocks again. Myra's village was about to be tested. And this time, it wouldn't come with warning. The storm hit in the middle of the night. No wind whisper. No slow roll of thunder. Just a crack like the sky itself splitting open. And then fire. Lightning struck the east ridge. The dry forest lit like paper. Raylene screamed first. Then June. Then a dozen others. Mira bolted from bed. Amara clutched her chest. King was already at the door. They ran. Chaos. Smoke thick. Flames licking the trees. Sparks falling like stars. Children cried. Adults shouted. Buckets passed hand to hand. "Keep low," Mira yelled. Elias grabbed her arm. "The ridge shelters will go first." Mira turned. "We have 3 mothers up there." "I'll go." "No," she said. "We both will." They climbed through smoke. Branches falling. Fire closing. Mira felt her lungs burn. Her eyes sting. But she pushed forward. King darted ahead, a shadow in the blaze. When they reached the first shelter, Mira pounded the wall. Out. Fire. 3 women stumbled out. One carrying a baby. Another, limping. Elias took 2. Mira the third. They ran. Halfway down, a tree split in half. Blocked the trail. King turned. Sniffed. Then bolted left into the brush. Mira followed. They emerged behind the gathering house. Safe. The village fought for hours. Water lines. Shovels. Fire breaks. By dawn, the ridge was black. But the people? Alive. Shaken. But whole. That morning, Mira stood in the ash. Watched birds circle the smoke. Raylene joined her. "I thought we were done," she said. "So did I. But we're still here." "Yes," Mira said. "Because we built this on more than wood." In the days that followed, they rebuilt. Ash cleared. New walls raised. Songs hummed, even as hands blistered. And King limped slightly. But he never stopped moving. On the 4th night, he disappeared. Gone before dawn. Mira searched for 2 days. Then found him at the river. Lying beside a girl no older than 10. Alone. Pale. Barefoot. Her eyes open when Mira knelt. "I followed the smoke," she whispered. "I didn't know where else to go." "You found it," Mira said. "The place. The people." King licked the girl's hand. And Mira smiled through tears. "You brought her home." That night, Mira added a new line to her journal. Day 79, fire tried to take what we built, but wings sheltered us. And now the wind carries our name to the lost. And above the ashes, the birds returned. Because life doesn't end with fire. Sometimes it begins again. Shelter of wings. Home carved in stone. The final chapter. Mira faces her past one last time. King earns a name no one will forget. And Amara speaks a word that echoes far beyond the trees. Some homes are built with nails and boards. Others are carved with memory. With hands that held. With voices that healed. With the soft loyalty of animals who asked for nothing and gave everything. This is how Myra's story ends, and how a new one begins. The fire scars never fully faded from the ridge, but neither did the songs. Children ran barefoot again. Chickens clucked near rebuilt huts. Elder women braided herbs. humming lullabies to babies who had never known fear. And King? He walked slower now, but he walked proud. With every step, he seemed to say, I've seen worse, and I'm still here. One morning, Mira stood at the edge of the village. She was waiting, not for danger, but for peace. And it came in the form of a girl she once knew. Her sister, Lena, the one who hadn't believed her, who turned away when Mira begged for help. She arrived thin, pale, and wordless. But her eyes, they held the weight of years. I was wrong, Lena whispered. Mira didn't speak, just open her arms, and Lena collapsed into them. Forgiveness doesn't need explanation. It just needs space. King nuzzled Lena's hand. She laughed through tears. You're real, she said to him. I thought you were just part of the story. Mira smiled. He is the story. That night, the village held a gathering. Not for defense, not for mourning, but for joy. A new mural was unveiled, carved into the largest stone near the clearing. A woman with a child in her arms. A dog at her side. Wings above, roots below, and around them, others. All shapes, all scars, all survivors. The stone read, This is home, not built, but grown. Mira knelt beside King. He laid his head in her lap. Do you know what you did? She asked. His tail tapped twice. You brought us all here. You taught us what loyalty looks like, what love without words means. He exhaled, and the stars blinked down in approval. The next morning, Amara ran barefoot into the forest. King followed, and when she tripped over a root, he nudged her gently. She stood, turned to him, and said, Friend, not dog, not pet, friend. And Myra's heart broke and healed all in the same breath. Seasons passed. Animals wandered into the village with no fear. A fox napped beside the bakery. 2 doves nested on the roof of the shelter. A wounded owl was mended by candlelight. Because this place wasn't just a home for people. It was a shelter of kindness. For all. When King's legs began to falter, the village didn't mourn. They lifted him. They built him a soft bed beneath Myra's porch. Children read stories to him. Amara brought him berries. And when his final breath came, it came with peace. A breeze, a paw print in the soil, and a sky full of stars. They buried him beneath the oldest tree. The stone read. He came with no name. He left with all of ours. Years later, Mira told the story to a circle of children. They sat wide-eyed, feet kicking in the dirt. And what did we learn? She asked. One child raised her hand. That we don't run forever. Another said, that family can find you. Amara, now strong, brave, and brown-eyed like her mother, added, and that sometimes the truest heroes walk on 4 legs. Mira smiled. Yes, she said, exactly that. Thank you for walking this journey with Mira, King, Amara, and all those who healed together. This story may end here, but kindness once lit keeps traveling, and somewhere another trail begins.